Hello there, you Awakening Wonders. Thanks for joining me today for Stay Free with Russell Brand. We're, of course, live, barely, in Miami. Let's know where you are and if, like me, you are experiencing a new world being born. That's not just hyperbole. We got evidence. Like Joe Biden has suddenly become cogent. Trump has released plans to dismantle the deep state. And Korean soldiers in Russia are, I'm afraid, in little circular self-hoods, little Scalextrics tracks of flesh, little NASDAQ loops of self-abuse because they're in Russia and they've got access to pornography. There's a lot for us to discuss. We'll be talking about the imminent changes. We'll be talking about how the centrists and the globalists and the corporatists, who may or may not know this yet, have been unconsciously advocating for ideological systems that have mankind at their apex and are therefore necessarily through entropy going to become evil. We can unpack that a little later. We're going to be talking about all that. We'll be with you on YouTube for the first 15 minutes. Then we'll be exclusively streaming on Rumble, where we could speak freely now, and we could speak freely for the last 4 years. Thank the Lord, because we were able to criticize the Biden and Kamala administration as they went through various fluxes and flexes of control and authoritarianism. If you're not an Awakened Wonder yet, become an Awakened Wonder. Yesterday, I had a fantastic conversation with Eric Metaxas about the significance of Christianity in politics and the necessity for Christian unity. But we talked about a lot more than that. We talked about how, even though it is continually Trump that is portrayed by the legacy media as demonic, under analysis, an alternative and indeed contrary perspective becomes available. But let's just start with a little bit of light-hearted fun. Michael Cohen, former Trump lawyer, who said he would leave the United States of America in the event of a Trump victory, because Trump's Hitler and everything. And if you believe that, if I thought Hitler was in control, I'm out. I don't know what Hitler was like if you spent personal time with him, one-on-one, maybe he was super charming. But knowing what we know now, you would have to quickly depart. Here's Michael Cohen getting beautifully trolled for not leaving America when, Hitlerian Trump assumes power.
No problem. Wow. Genius you are. Can we stop with that? I appreciate it. I don't like the stupid turkeys. All right. Let's just knock that stupid shit off, please. All right. I did. I said
I think what I like is when the internet becomes childish. That is what I enjoy. I don't enjoy the mendacity. I don't enjoy it when the internet can be used by centralized powers to surveil, to censor, to organize campaigns of hatred, to bring down vocal opponents of their administration, maybe even their regime. But when you see this dumb stuff happening, it brings about a kind of mirth that I remember from when I was 15, dumb comedy.
I did. I said I was leaving. And then the following day, get that through your dumb heads. The following day, I turned around and I said that there's no chance.
The turkey one, I can tell, particularly offends him. As soon as that turkey one's up, he's up on that camera. No, I must be able to prevent that. Don't be doing it. I think if you did it to me now, I'd be all right with it. But if I was saying something really serious, look, I've got to address that, obviously it's very serious when people make allegations against you, and I have to address that. I wouldn't that would be upsetting, man. That would be upsetting.
There's no chance in the world that I'm leaving my country. Thank you very much. All right? I'm not leaving anyway. You leave. This is my country. And I have every right, every single right within which to turn around.
Also, there's something funny about the way that the turkey appears, isn't it? It's like it's the turkey itself is sort of participating, sort of all a bit excited and erratic.
Single right within which to turn around. Would we stop so we can? All right, 2 seconds. I'm going to end up blocking this idiot.
Oh, it's so good.
Blocking this idiot.
You should just do the speech. I have every right as Elvis Presley to say that I'm going to leave the country, then not leave it. Because do you know what it is? We take ourselves too seriously. We're all guilty of it sometimes. I do it. Sometimes I think I'm really important what I'm saying. I'm really spreading an important message. Then I realise we are in infinite space. God is real. We are microscopic. We are vapor passing through eternity, yet somehow through grace we might align with principles divine. And if you know that, then life is glorious. This is the day that the Lord has made. Rejoice in it. Rejoice in it, Michael Cohen.
This idiot.
Okay, I'll be the gunslinger. I don't mind that, being the old goal prospector. That's actually harmless fun. Oh, Michael, come in there. Listen, let's not take life too seriously, man. None of us gets out of this alive. Now, you'll be familiar, as I am, with the various nations on Earth when introduced to new sort of chemistry or indulgences of apparent civilization take a hit. Famously, the smallpox blankets for the Native American folks. Even our brothers, the Irish, across the water from my island, Britain, I think they get messed up more on alcohol because of some sort of glitch in genetics. Well, now, Korean soldiers fighting alongside Russians, officially making this a world war now between Russia and Korea, and NATO are getting totally hooked up and giddy on pornography. Let's have a look at that story. They're getting access to that, and I think because of Elon Musk's Starlink, people all over the world, like sort of little tribes that have been revering nature for millennia are now like, oh my God, I could look at that. Oh, that's disgusting. Let me scroll that back. Oh my God, you can see them doing it in different colours. Extraordinary, really. Extraordinary, isn't it, to think such things might not be permissible? Extraordinary, isn't it, to re-examine the notion of sin, averring, avoiding and coming away from a predetermined path that you may willingly walk, but if you leave, there could be consequence. Stop that! No, don't you dare put Topo Chico on my head when I'm making an important point about theology. In this brave new world, Biden is cogent. Trump is bringing down the deep state. The View are in an apoplexy of confusion, and is it possible that Alex Jones could be the press secretary? Even if you are like Jen Psaki, even if you are Joe Scarborough, who's apparently finally beginning to understand what this has all been about, you would embrace that. If you're watching us on YouTube, we'll be there for another 10 minutes or so. Like, Alex Jones as press secretary, who among us would not be amused, especially with the new sort of muscular Alex Jones every morning? He would be good at that.
Let me explain why this could actually be a good idea. The dead corporate dinosaur media has not been very powerful for a long time, but now they're absolutely toxic and they have no power. Everything they do blows up in their face. And so, yes, it would be good to have someone like me to treat the corporate media with the disrespect they deserve, to explain their propagandists, their fake news, their dinosaur media. They have almost no viewers, and they're liars. And I would do a great job doing that. Trump would do a great job doing that. Elon Musk would do a great job. Candace Owens would do a fabulous job. And I think not to just troll them, but to let them know what a joke they are. It would be great to have me in there for, say, a month. I wouldn't want to do it longer than that. I like doing my daily show. I don't want to be in D.C.
Thought he had a month to be the press secretary of the White House. That is a reference to a joke from Brass Eye for two people, specifically two people. Hey, wouldn't that be amazing? Wouldn't it be amazing? But here, in a sense, it's kind of, there's a preposterousness about it on one hand, right? But on the other hand, what do you think are the credentials of Jen Psaki, Karine Jean-Pierre, or whoever was the press secretary for the White House? What do you think are the credentials for who's the woman that does all the stuff out there in Ukraine? You know, all of those various deep state apparatus people. And stay with us because we're going to talk about how Donald Trump says he's going to dismantle that. What are their credentials? Like, for a minute, reflect. Do you think they're better than you? Do you think they're better than you? Have you bought into their gaslighting? Do you think you are dirty, disgusting, racist, misogynist, appalling? Have you bought into what they've been telling you? He's damn right, bang right, about the legacy media don't have no power no more. Thank you, Heavenly Father. He's damn right that why not have other people? Why not have Alex Jones for a month, Candace Owens for a month? Why not have people like, you know, that like dislike the government as press secretary for a month? Why not? Why not embrace the idea that this is not the end? This is not the kingdom of heaven. This is not as good as it gets. We can improve, we can evolve, we can change, we can develop, we can design new systems, we can become more and more like our Creator when we submit to heavenly will. We could start creating glorious kingdoms here on earth in preparation for his return. Now, many people say that's impossible because we are fallen and because we are broken, but I reckon we can make the world a better place, and perhaps a jolly good place to start is Press Secretary Alex Jones bundling in there. Because remember, Alex Jones isn't always in that mood. Like, you know, we've had Alex on a couple of times. I'd want that Alex Jones that goes, like, sort of like, He seemed like when he's like a superhero that's trying to will himself into the transformed state, you know, like sort of like like he could pop himself in a sort of some sort of human erection. That's what I'm saying. E. Duncan, 16. Russell Brand needs a cabinet position. I accept, baby. I accept. Was there more?
See, and then you could have Candace Owens in for a month. You could have, there's so many other. Hell, maybe Joe Rogan would come do it for a week. And I'm telling you, this would be something that would turn out, like Candace Owens said, being bigger than Game of Thrones.
Yeah, I mean, I'd watch it. Suddenly I'm watching that. Rotating, hey, why not? Yeah, let's start experimenting with new systems of government, because what we're learning is that the legacy media, as many of us have long suspected, are, yes, malfeasant, nefarious, deceptive, duplicitous tools of the establishment, propaganda machines, modern-day Goebbels. Do you think Goebbels thought he was evil? Did he think, and now the will of Hitler? No, it's like, right, come on, we've got to do this thing. We're making a difference. That's what they felt. And surely Joe Scarborough, who I'm not comparing to Goebbels, I'm simply saying when you're conveying and amplifying propaganda, you're ultimately in the service of principles that are malign, and he has been doing that when advocating for vaccinations, for example, when giving Anthony Fauci a platform to softballing Anthony Fauci, giving him like such a fluffy, puffy interview. I'm surprised they didn't disappear in a cloud of Johnson & Johnson's baby powder, and you want to look into what's in that stuff. Here he is acknowledging that perhaps the cost of groceries and people's everyday lives are a significant factor when it comes to the way they view politics and their nation. That not everyone who likes Trump is like, now I can get off on some real racism, misogyny. No, maybe people are like, I don't think this is how I want to live. I don't think I like this country anymore. I don't think I like the haughty, supercilious, condemnatory criticisms of metropolitan elites talking down to me in a professional media class, condemning people, pretending that they know some secret, pretending that they've got values, acting like they're gods, acting like they got the right to judge, acting like they got the right to condemn. Well, surely now Judgment Day is upon them. Here it comes, Joe. Here it comes. Joe's waking up to the fact that a lot of Americans ain't evil and are actually concerned about things like not having a global war, and that their food is become too bloody expensive.
I want to talk about economy for a second. A few weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, somebody who was going to be voting for Kamala Harris came up to me and said, oh my God, Trump's going to win. I go, why is that? He goes, I went to the grocery store, butter's over $3. I kind of laughed and I said, well, that's kind of reductive, isn't it? Said it to myself. To him, I smiled and I said, good point. But it actually, what everything we're hearing after the election is,
I'm just saying, the $7.
What's that?
The $7.
What's that? Butter is $7?
Yeah.
What?
Some
Is
places.
it framed in gold?
Yeah, what kind of butter?
Depends
Anyway.
on where you go. But
Okay, well, yeah, okay. Well,
$7.
anyway, my point is this, Willie. The rent is too damn high, and this guy was saying the cost of butter is way damn too high.
Yeah.
And so I thought it was a bit reductive. It ended up being just the point that if you look at the cost of groceries, if you look at the cost of gas, if you look
Not grass, Joe. That's not how it works.
of gas, if you look at the cost of things compared to 4
Plants Hill in the Rumble chat. Kerrygold is very expensive, but it's a damn fine Irish butter.
cost of things compared to 4 years ago, it was a very simple answer for working class Americans. Things just cost too much.
yeah.
Yeah, no question about it. By the way, 7.
I'm glad to hear that in the wake of the disaster for globalist corporatists, statists, that they're now willing to think, as they perhaps could have done it in around 2015-16, hey, maybe all these people are not actually evil. Maybe we can't trust the legacy media. Before you believe something, just ask yourself this: where did I get that information from? Where did I get that information from? If the answer is, I got it from the newspapers, the legacy media told me, right, okay, you can't rely on them, but it's not your fault that you believe them. You were trained to believe them. And even now, as you become like a viral cell conveying their beliefs, that's not your fault. Thankfully, we have one vaccine that can be relied on to work. This is it. Stay with us. If you're watching us on YouTube, we'll be with you for another couple of minutes before we exclusively are available on Rumble, our free speech platform. Let me know, is JT on the chat right now? Yeah, he's there. Jay, check it out, baby. Justin's doing it. Well, where's JT? He should be doing it. Okay, so let's have a look. Let's have a look at this. One of the significant changes is even Putin is saying that the old world order is over.
To a certain extent, the moment of truth is coming. The previous world order is irreversibly becoming a thing of the past. One could say has become a thing of the past. And the shaping of the new world order is become the scene of uncompromising fight. Uncompromising, first and foremost, for the reason that it's not even the battle for power or geopolitical influence. It's a clash of the very principles that would be the foundation between the relation, for the relation of the countries at the next historical stage. And its outcome will define whether all of us jointly can build a world that would allow everyone to develop and to solve the outstanding contradictions based on mutual respect of cultures and civilization without coercion and use of force.
Wow, the world is changing fast, rapidly, improving. Dave is $32433 $100. Love the show. Keep up the work. Thank you very much. That's a very kind donation. We've got all sorts of causes that we're getting right back involved in. Let me tell you that it's going magnificently well. Okay, now let's enjoy for a moment legacy media's ongoing meltdown, starting with The View. Do you know who's racist? Latinos. They're not quite white, are they? But they're not fully brown or black, and they are not doing what the establishment's telling them to do, and therefore
And finally, we talk a lot about these different demographics and these assumptions of where they're going to go. Latinos in Texas, a district that's 97% Latino, went 75 percentage points for Donald Trump. Why?
Misogyny.
It's on the border.
It's
the border
misogyny.
crisis is on.
Mean sexist
On their doorstep.
So
and they were begging people to care about it for years. We
Misogyny
need to
and
take some
sexism,
lessons.
that's what that was.
The lessons are not
Knock,
misogyny
knock.
and sexism.
Who's there? Oh my gosh, it's Whoopi.
Someone in the chat there, affection, they are brown. You're right, they are brown. So they can't be racist, but they can be sexist. You can be a brown sexist, and they must be, because there can't be any other reason that they are voting against this centralizing, nihilistic, corrupt system of cruelty and condemnation. Let's have a look at Morning Joe condemning Hispanic voters precisely for being racist.
Democrats need to be mature, and they need to be honest. And they need to say, yes, there's misogyny. But it's not just misogyny from white men. It's misogyny from Hispanic men.
Right.
It's misogyny.
Like, if it is a kind of unconscious misogyny that's somehow biological or sociologically inculcated in ways so insidious it's impossible to avoid or regulate, then what's Joe Scarborough saying that he hasn't got that kind of misogyny? That is the kind of haughtiness but no one's better than anybody else. No one's better than anyone else. And isn't that it's like an important part of their position about sort of protecting vulnerable minorities and stuff. And yeah, so when you see him sort of sat there, I am essentially better than you. Here's some stuff that I think.
Misogyny from black men, things we've all been talking about, who do not want a woman leading them. Might be race issues with Hispanics.
We do not want to. Do you know what? I don't think people care. I don't think people care. Why don't you let me know what you think, though, in the comments and the chat? We're going to leave you, if you're watching us on YouTube, and we've got so much more to talk about. We're going to be talking about, of course, Trump's claim that he's going to dismantle the deep state. But it's not only a claim, it's a plan. Let me know if you think it's going to work. And man, I'm going to be wanting to talk to Mike Benz about that. One of the questions I keep getting in the Rumble chat is, do you think that Kennedy and Trump are going to come together and confront NATO? That's from Breed Toz. Will they go after the new NATO boss, Mark Rutte? I'm not sure about the spelling of that, but I think that the relationship with NATO is about to change. I think the world's about to change, but that's, that's what you guys think as well. So if you're watching on YouTube, click the link in the description, get into our free stream on Rumble, where this conversation will continue. Let's continue now with Joe Scarborough's haughty condemnation of everyone, basically everyone.
With Hispanics.
level the playing field, like not calling people doctor. It's interesting, isn't it? Because how do you equate it to ideas around, for example, gender, Mr., Mrs., and, you know, preferred pronouns and all that kind of stuff? Imagine if you just wouldn't call doctors doctors. I don't know. Let me know what you think about that. Anyway, I'll be talking to Bishop Robert Barron. One of the things that continually plays upon my mind, and let me know how you feel about this, you awakened wonders, you, because I'm very interested to learn your perspectives on it. How do you feel about the general pervasive idea that people are stupid, that we're spoken down to, that we don't understand reality, that we're simpletons, that we should be shepherded and herded into paddocks of conformity? Sometimes you'll see something from a protester that absolutely exposes that ridiculousness. We'll be with you on YouTube for about 10-15 minutes, then we'll be exclusively streaming on Rumble, and you are not going to want to miss my conversation with the theologian Robert Barron. He tells me how to interpret this book. He tells me how to see it as a library rather than as a single book, although it does have a single narrative. We talk about a lot of good stuff. You're going to love this conversation. Here is a protester in the UK sticking it to the proverbial man and understanding that our ULEZ cameras, which are ostensibly about environmental measures and protecting the environment, which of course ought to be done on the basis of our love and connection for the planet, but needn't necessarily be managed by centralised forces that always seem to uncover as their solution to the problems of the environment, imposing control on ordinary people. Here, she shows that she completely understands the gig.
Why do you feel so passionately about this?
Because I know there's an agenda.
What's the agenda?
The agenda is pay per mile next, then it's electric, then it's car sharing, then it's reduced private ownership of vehicles, then all these cameras are always going to be for the police. It's for surveillance. You think it's going to be used to prevent crime, but it's actually going to be linked to when we go to digital ID with our digital currency, all linked to our carbon footprint, essentially a credit scoring system.
Do you see how people have actually understood the way the wind is blowing and what bureaucratic, democratic tyranny looks like? Do you remember we spoke a little while ago about Alexis de Tocqueville's analysis on this, that democracy has always had the inclination towards tyranny in so much as it can become a set of institutions that are centrally governed and controlled while still allowing most people to feel like they're participating in democracy because they get to vote once every 4 years. And when you see something like that, you realise people understand, people know what's what, people know what's going on. Here's a member of parliament in the UK taking the oath, like that all of them have to take. I don't know if they take an oath in your country, do they, when they become a congressperson or whatever, but he refuses to pledge allegiance to the king. It's gone viral in our country, but in a way, does it make a difference? A king, a president, a box of chocolates, a road cone? Who cares really what it is that is the symbol of hierarchical power that sits astride your nation? In a way, I thought when the statues were being pulled down across the country, well, how can you have a royal family in the end? How can you celebrate royalty in any way if you are against ideas of hierarchy, as those movements evidently, plainly and explicitly were? Here is an MP refusing to take the sort of oath, but sort of in a way participate in systems that, with or without a monarch, appear to be tyrannical because that's the way they're organised.
I take this oath under protest and in the hope that one day my fellow citizens will democratically decide to live in a republic. Until that time, I do solemnly, sincerely.
Won't make no difference. Won't make no difference, mate. Won't make a blind bit of difference. This is fantastic. Ed Miliband has just got a job in the new government as kind of an environmental minister or some such description. Now, I met him before and interviewed him when he himself was running for Prime Minister as the leader of the Labour Party. They've just been elected in my country. Have a look at this wonderful piece of propaganda, easy soft propaganda on Easy Soft TV of a morning, and note that Ed Miliband, his expression, his face and his demeanour belie the obvious evident fact that we all know and we all understand that politicians are playing a kind of game. When he talks about electric cars and how everyone should have an electric car, and electric cars are the solution, and why don't you have an electric car? Why are our cars not electric?
Moment, government needs to step up.
I presume you've got one.
I haven't yet. It's a work in progress.
What? Practice what you preach.
It's a work in progress. We're actually on our way to buying one before lockdown. It is going to happen, I promise you. I have bought an electric bike, but it's on its way.
Electric bike? That's unnecessary. A bike, that's more electricity. You should be able to ride a bike. I've got an electric toothbrush. They don't need to be electric. I've got an electric bike. I've got an electric dildo. Oh, please tell me what to say. Now, as well as the ridiculousness of the claim and the obvious hypocrisy, casual hypocrisy though it may be, it's just watch his demeanour and watch the fact that Ed Miliband knows that what he's ultimately doing is participating in a game, the game of being an environmental minister. Remember, in our country, throughout the lockdown, the politicians that were in power held parties during the period when everyone else was forbidden to have Christmas. Sorry, we've got to cancel Christmas. Sorry, you're going to be doing funerals on YouTube. Yet they had parties. People have forgotten that Keir Starmer, the current Prime Minister, was also involved in parties, or at least an event in which he had his sleeves rolled up and he was drinking a beer. It was a work event. Yeah, that's what they all say, mate. And what we can glean from that is what? Hypocrisy. Just the way that the institutions function, the way that they are run. They run on hypocrisy, the way that Ed Miliband's bike runs on electricity. Unnecessarily, because you can run a bicycle using your tootsies.
So hang on. So you're pushing for everyone to have an electric car and you don't have one yourself?
Pushing to make it accessible. Look, I'm pushing to make it accessible.
So you want to lock everyone in their homes, but you're having parties? Yeah, well, when we say that everyone should have an electric car, we mean people that have currently got vehicles that aren't electric, so we can further impecuniate you in the way that we do, in countless, immeasurable, tiny and sometimes grand ways, invisibly baked into our system. Like if you get to the end of your life and you still own your home, we'll make sure that you need to go into care and that exhausts you financially, or we'll have some tax system that slowly drains you of your resources. One way or another, we will enslave you. And we will ask you to thank us for that while we're doing it. Why are you not saying thank you? Are you not enjoying the chains?
Even accessible to you.
But you haven't even experienced one yourself. I mean, you'd like to think if you're going to tell us all to get an electric car and encourage the nation to embrace electric cars.
Look at the smile. Look at the smile, because they know it's a game. And who are the people that write the rules of the game? They are the elders of the system, as well as the current leaders, who are, of course, ultimately linked in myriad ways. And it may not be shadowy, and they may not wear hoods, and they may not even worship Moloch around a fire. But what's corroboratable, observable, evident and plain is that there are financial and bureaucratic interests that transcend democracy that ultimately govern and control these figures and the economic systems that they endorse. And Tony Blair, see the finger, see Tony Blair turning into a satire of himself before your very eyes, warns that Labour, the current governing party, embrace AI or forced to raise taxes. That's what we're going to have to do, he says, chiding, chastising and educating you with a digit so long that Rupert Murdoch's former wife must be astonished at the value that can be packed into one hand, although no one's proven that those rumours are true, of course. What I'm interested in really is how power functions, what roles these people play, how these people that end up as literally lords and seem, in the case of Tony Blair, to have vested interest in data companies that will likely benefit when the National Health Service, that's our Medicare long established, are able to access all of our health data. There is no objectivity, there is no honour, there is no valour, there is naught but some invisible system, some vital urge towards more power and more wealth. Mick Jagger has just found out the hard way that a lot of people in Canada haven't drunk the Kool-Aid. Don't see Justin Trudeau as a heel-clicking, friendly, lovable scamp with a full head of hair just doing his best. Many people that live in Canada remember the way that he tried to evoke the Emergency Act, remember the way that people's bank accounts were frozen because they donated to a trucker protest, remember the way that those truckers were vilified simply because they were protesting about the way they earned a living and the kind of restrictions they faced during the pandemic era. The Canadian people, like the British woman you saw at the beginning of this piece, are not idiots. People are not idiots. They are awakened. They don't need a managerial class of bureaucrats with slick hair and slick words governing them. They need the state to get out of the way. They need these bureaucracies to get out of the way. They need indeed to have control over their own lives and their own communities. And as we are experiencing, that is the inert tendency afforded to us by the great miracle of technology and the platforms such as this one that allow free communication and new consensus to emerge. And God, are they working hard to oppress that and prevent that. It seems that we can't get no. Can we get any? Even a little bit of Oh, you do it in your mind.
I mean, we love your Mr. Trudeau. I mean, his family has always been such big fans about that.
Of course, because Mick Jagger was once a figure that understood the culture, that exemplified the culture, that demonstrated and catharsized shamanically somehow the culture. He was its sexy anti-establishment, writhe and lithe and wriggling and leaping and snarling and singing and chanting manifestation. He was the rejection of the decades prior. But now, of course, and I've experienced this in a sort of a minuscule pipsqueak way, what happens is the establishment, it hoovers you up, it sucks you in, it lacquers and shellacks you with its bullshit and claptrap, and then you can't see out no more. And presumably, Mick Jagger, from the kind of life that he lives, and this is no condemnation of Mick, by God, he's earned it, he's an incredible man, he don't know that the people of Canada, almost without exception, don't like Justin Trudeau. The same way the people of Britain don't like Keir Starmer. The same way the real people of America don't like Joe Biden. Not because of the individuals or the people, they're all children of God, but because they are the representatives and exemplifiers of a bullshit system that, frankly, we're over.
Congratulations on the Canadian soccer team.
They're changing the subject. What about the Canadian soccer team? Boo, we don't care about that either. Ice hockey, fuck you. If you're watching this on YouTube, sorry about the swearing, we'll be on there for a couple more minutes, and then we will be exclusively streaming on that sweet, sweet, sweet stream of freedom that we call Rumble. And I'll be talking to Bishop Robert Barron. If you haven't listened to Robert Barron explain his relationship with Christ and the significance of Christ in a world that appears to be falling apart, then it's an experience that you are going to love. If you're an Awaken Wonder, it's been available on the platform for over a week now. And of course, now my conversation with Candace Owens is up for Awaken Wonders. She don't pull no punches. It's all in there. I mean, I don't even want to say it. I'm not as confident as Candace Owens, and also I don't share all of her positions, but it is a good chat about Christianity. But let me tell you some of the subjects that come up. Holocaust, abortion. I mean, it's all in there. She didn't, that woman, she don't leave nothing in the gym, as they say in pugilism of the more physical variety. I respect her a lot and I like her a great deal, and it's a pretty brilliant conversation. As you know, next week we will be live at the RNC. We got some fantastic interviews coming up. Yes, we're still working to secure, the big T himself. But Marjorie Taylor Greene, Matt Gates, I mean, they're all coming on. Marjorie Taylor Greene, even if they see me mispronounce their name, I'm sure they'll be pretty excited to get on. Thomas Massey, you let me know who you want to see us talk to, and you'll get inside the Republican National Convention by joining us. And there are still a few tickets left to see me in an intimate venue in Milwaukee. I'm doing a show on the Monday and on the Wednesday. I don't know the dates, but there's a link in the description now. Come and see me do stand-up comedy. I've got a really good show cooking. It's been a really weird year for me, and I've got a lot of things to say about it, baby. Maybe, and I pray that they are not as out of touch with reality as Mick Jagger's appraisal of what the people of Canada might think of Justin Trudeau, because I'm aware of why people think it, because people recognise what Justin Trudeau is, a neoliberalist who has been co-opted and captured by a set of globalist interests that require willing stooges like Trudeau to stand up front like boy band members and parrot their ideas. The idea that Trudeau's parroting here is one you'll be familiar with. It's like the kind of peculiar notion that at the end of their lives, our elderly, instead of being revered and cherished, learned from and looked after, the crotchety old bastards, they should be hijacked and mugged and stood up for their property. I mean, do a lot of old people have a bit too much house, more house than they could handle? I'd say so, Justin.
One of the things that always comes up for me is the idea that, on housing, you have a whole bunch of older folks who are living in houses that are too much house for them right now, but their connection to neighborhood, to community means that no, they don't want to move out to the suburbs or to some different city to be closer to their grandkids. They want to still live in their community's quality of life, and there is no housing that they can afford even to downsize other than staying in their big house. So where you're actually working to increase the amount of apartments or senior assisted living centers in
to the weary boredom of the Gen Z audience there, sort of beleaguered and baffled and beaten back by this kind of bureaucratic claptrap that Justin Trudeau himself probably doesn't believe in or even understand. It's the sort of thing that I suppose gets handed to him on a piece of paper and he very politely reads it out, and there's some globalist agenda around the acquisition of property is therefore met. You'd be aware, won't you, of BlackRock recently investing significantly in residential properties as the acquisition of land, whether it's agricultural or developmental land, seems to be accumulating and centralizing in the way that most things seem to be centralizing. And if you're not sure about what Justin Trudeau's attitude is to the gift of life itself, then remember, Canada is the country that will kill you, not only if you're on the edge of death and it's the kindest thing to do. We wouldn't put a dog through the difficult, debilitating final years of decay, would we? And so why would we put an old person through it? Well, they're expanding that. Canada prepares to expand its euthanasia law to include people with mental illness. They're the last people, I say they, we're the last people you can ask whether or not you want to be dead. Yes, of course I do. Of course I do. But hopefully that feeling might pass. Some Canadians, including many of the country's doctors, question whether the country's assisted death program has moved too far, too fast. Anti-life, anti-divinity, anti-beauty, anti-everything except for a kind of pragmatic, secular citizen management program that gently and carefully migrates power away from you and towards them. And the peculiar thing is, I'm not convinced anymore that it's an entirely rationalist project. I do believe that there could be an occultist dimension, but why don't you let me know what you think about that in the chat. It's a pretty expansive program. People with anorexia have been given the green light for suicide. Oh my God, it's a very, very serious disease, anorexia, and in itself an indication that the whole society has gone off track. The messaging, this is like, do you get anorexia in countries that have not been subject to our cultural models and messages? Open question. And a growing number of young Canadians think that poverty should also be included as eligible criteria. Are you too poor? Yes, I am poor. Good. Would you be better off dead? We'd prefer it if you were a bit deader. Hearing loss has also been included. Good news, you've become eligible for euthanasia. Would I like a trip to Europe and Asia? Yes, that's right. If you'd like to come this way, he's agreed to it. I can't wait to go. Oh, well, it's free will. The individual is the most sacred thing available. 1990. There you go, Canada. That's what progress and liberalism look like. Can you get no satisfaction? That's a double negative, baby. And Canada is so negative, it deserves a double. Hearing loss has been included. Medical bureaucracies have been accused of pushing patients to agree to kill themselves. Have you ever needed God more? If you're watching us on YouTube right now, I want to tell you that you are going to love this conversation with Bishop Barron. So click the link in the description and join us over there as we talk about meaning and purpose and salvation and change and the possibility that there might be something more to this world than waiting to be poor enough or deaf enough to die in Canada. Lord alone, I pray there's something more worthy than what we're being offered by this bureaucratic managerial class of stooges that seemingly want us dead. Click the link in the description. Become an Awakened Wonder. We got some fantastic items, and join us next week at the RNC. Come see me in Milwaukee. There's a link for that in there. On Rumble. Hope you enjoy it. Hello, welcome to the show. Welcome to Stay Free with Russell Brand. I'm here with Benny Johnson today. Benny's so professional. He even knows he's got a single. He's making an eye contact with it right now. It's lovely to see you.
It's so beautiful to see you.
I loved our conversation yesterday, and I'm glad to hear that it did well on your pages. Forgive the environment. We're in a live environment full of excitement. Dan Bongino's just inches from my face. It's quite intimidating when Dan Bongino's over there for a number of reasons. Do you want me to list them?
Please, please.
Firstly, he's physically intimidating.
Yes.
Like he's got that sort of...
Yes.
Like sort of I don't want to use any words that are condemnatory, but he's got a lot of power in him, and he's Dan Bongino. Secondly, you get the sense that Dan Bongino can murder you whenever he wants to, like it's a matter of choice for Dan Bongino. And thirdly, his stream gets like so many views, so I'm all the time sort of thinking that I feel like I'm sort of rattling a tin cup, like while he's like running a proper business, you know?
He looks like central casting. Now, I've never starred in any Hollywood movies, unlike our wonderful host here.
I think it's only a matter of time, Benny.
If they needed a Vin Diesel.
Yeah.
Vin Diesel is what? Okay, so if you're looking for a Dan Bongino in real life, like the movie equivalent would be Vin Diesel. Vin Diesel would be Dan Bongino's body double.
Yeah, for
in
sure.
Fast and Furious 12.
I noticed that you were quite fascinated that Jonathan Rumi, our Lord and Savior in the program The Chosen, was my body double in Ballers.
I can't believe it.
Because you just said
I didn't
that I
know.
could body double for Jesus in The Chosen, but he actually body doubled for me in Ballers.
I always assumed you'd be a majestic luminescence presence in real life, but we had never met until about 24 hours ago.
Yeah.
And then as soon as I saw it, you had a cowboy hat on, so I didn't see the full Russell Brand. Now that I see the full Russell Brand, I say, you should star in The Chosen, is what I said.
What?
And I had no idea that the actual actor that plays Christ in The Chosen was your body double. I did not know that.
Jonathan Rumi, I love him so much. He's been on the show. He's a fantastic person, and I love him very much. Now, this is one of the challenges I have, mate. Like, you know, I'm at the Republican National Convention. I'm not a person that's particularly associated with conservatism or republicanism. I detest the neoliberal establishment. Like, years ago, I'd have been talking about the Gulf War. I'd have been talking about Bush Cheney, Wolfowitz, all that kind of stuff, all that corruption that was deep entrenched within the Republican Party system. Here we are now, though, at the Republican National Convention, and I see that you are wearing, like, that image.
Parental advisory. This would be an album that I would have purchased when I was 18 and banged it really hard in my car to make my parents angry.
Have you always been a Republican, and have you never considered, because for me, Republicanism was always affiliated with conservatism, authoritarianism, control.
Yes.
And I wonder if you have had that perspective, what your perspective is on it, or whether and how you think the ascent of Trump has altered the Republican movement, and what are the positives and negatives of that.
Yeah, the positives is that it's now officially a nationalist and populist party that puts America first, that does not want forever wars. In fact, the Republican Party of today would be exactly what you would have cheered for 2 decades ago in Bush Cheney. In fact, Liz Cheney is a Democrat now. So the Cheney family are Democrats. They've always been Democrats. Forever war is something that a globalist would want, right? And there's a reason why the 7 counties around Washington, D.C. are the richest counties in America. What exactly do they create? What exactly do they produce? They produce nothing but war. They produce chaos and horrors and murdering across the globe on behalf of a global empire that they view themselves as the authoritarians of. And it's evil, and it's wrong, and that is the only industry, and it's a monopoly on violence that DC has, and it's despicable. And we stand against that. Donald Trump's the only person that stopped wars in my lifetime, certainly as president, and began ending wars, including but not limited to going to a nation that we were at war with. So we're currently at war with North Korea. There was never cessation.
I didn't even actually know that.
So the Korean War was never solved,
I didn't
right?
know
There was never
a war.
peace treaty. America is technically at war with North Korea right now, and so Donald Trump goes walking.
Are you winning?
Into, I think no one's winning. We did win. I think everyone won when Donald Trump stepped into North Korea, invited by the leader that we're technically at war with, and he claps him on the back, and they hug as bros on the DMZ. And that is a beautiful moment. That's an incredible human moment that we could all celebrate. And what does centralized establishment Washington, D.C. do to the man who brought peace in my lifetime to America? They try and kill him. I mean, they just tried to kill him. They've tried to assassinate him in every way, Russell, that they can.
And you're saying that you consider that to be a maneuver that's ultimately emanated from the Democrat Party system. Honestly, wow, man. I mean, it does because of all the anomalies and extraordinary aspects of it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's listen. These they need their industry to continue. They need their monopoly to continue. And if you stop wars, and if you begin to restrain power and say America first, let's spend our treasure here in America instead of spoiling our treasure in some desert somewhere. What's our greatest treasure? Our men and women. But also $35 trillion in debt. I'm not exactly sure how that's sustainable.
Doesn't seem sustainable.
No.
And also the emergence of this sort of BRICS financial alliance would further perhaps expedite the de-dollarization of the globe and prohibit, limit, and diminish American power, meaning that the military power that America will soon be its only really facility for power. Do you think that's why the Forever Wars is? And also, I wanted to ask you, this is a bit more of a basic question. How come the Democrat Party, if, as you say, they're the party of warmongering and death, have PR'd themselves into, we exist to primarily help the vulnerable? That's how they're pitching it, isn't it?
Yeah.
How have they pulled that off?
How can you do that? I'm not sure. Joe Biden started at least 3 wars, and or overseen them.
Which
and then
ones?
The Ukraine war.
Yep.
Right?
Bad.
So the war in Gaza.
Yes,
okay.
bad.
So he's accelerated that, obviously.
Yes.
And not called for cessation there. And right now China is encircling Taiwan, and there
those military
there
bases.
are people that are dying in the Taiwan
no.
Straits. There are people that are being captured, and so it's the accelerant right there in that region also is happening, and this is all happening. There's also multiple wars going on in Africa right now, and we don't tend to care as much about those. But nonetheless, he hasn't brought peace; he's brought war. And I guess if you look at the actual moral value of a leader, ask yourself that question. Like, especially if you call yourself a Christian. Are you bringing peace, or are you bringing war? Are you bringing death and suffering upon innocent children, or are you bringing war? One of the biggest problems that liberals have is they love their Lord and Savior, Barack Obama, yet Barack Obama famously drone struck an American citizen, a young teenager named Anwar al-Awlaki, without a trial, and killed that poor American teenager in Yemen. And he signed off on that order. And so you have to ask yourself the question, which is the party of peace and love and kindness towards humanity, and which is the party of war and death and destruction?
Well, what's interesting is in all likelihood there's going to be a Republican victory in November, and I wonder if this rhetoric will be able to be sustained once the Republicans are in power, and if they will govern peacefully, presumably. Also with like isolated incidents like that, which are obviously appalling and disgusting, as are the deaths by of non-American citizens as a result of drone strikes, all of them. I want to say, Benny, mate, I watched this PBS documentary on Obama prior to Obama. I think it was probably, he might have been a senator. Like it was like, sort of, I guess it's 20 years old. And it's like, there's this guy, Barack Obama. And it's all sort of like, and what's really interesting about the documentary is that you see in this story, which is not the kind of polished propaganda that we are accustomed to in 2024, a kind of a person that is indeed filled with hope and potential, a person with an extraordinarily unique background. And while watching it, certainly when you watch it, like you sort of see like Michelle Obama, ambitious, Chicago lawyer, you sort of think that there's so much that's positive about this young couple. Do you think that there's something that happens to people, and I was just talking to Marjorie Taylor Greene about this, who I think is just a delight, I've got to tell you. She's sort of, that woman is raw. I like it, man.
Fireball.
Yeah, she makes me laugh because she's like, talks like for a while all demure, and then she goes, fucking bullshit. And I'm like, good heavens, I'm from England. Anyway, do you think that something happens to people? Do you think that, in the same way as I could say within Hollywood, the raw material is people with talent or abilities or aspects to their nature that could become commodities? You perhaps are beautiful, or you're funny, or you're clever. Do you think politics, people like Barack Obama might come in that are actually just rather lovely, idealistic, great orators and communicators? They get sucked into this system and intoxicated not only with power, but some sort of system of corruption that sort of, in a sense, I don't know, taints, metastasizes the sort of commodity or quality of genuine people with ideals into something a little more repugnant.
Yeah, so I call it the ghost in the machine paradox. So the ghost in the machine is the creature that actually runs the machine, and it tries as hard as it can to be invisible. But the ghost in our machine, as the American public, is the permanent, entrenched, parasitic class inside of Washington, D.C. that remains there forever and is not able to be put into check by you or me or any voter or any person that may want to donate to a cause. They are there permanently. They are protected by law. They are protected by unions. They are protected by public sector unions, which should be illegal. And they cannot be removed. They are the barnacles on the bottom of the ship. Or have you ever seen a Nature Channel show with those majestic, beautiful, large fish, and there's always these suckers on the bottom of them? There's always these parasite fish on the bottom that remain attached to the big, beautiful whale or shark that is through the ocean. That's our political class. And they suck and they drain and they destroy. And when someone like Barack Obama, and it's really interesting because, there's so many people that could be enraptured by Barack Obama's initial rhetoric. Who can't? Here's this beautiful United States of America. And he said, in Colorado, with all those beautiful columns, you probably know the people who built them. They were built by Hollywood. He said, there's no red America, there's no blue America, there's just the United States of America. And even someone like me, who was forced to choke down John McCain in that election, based on the fact that I was the college Republican chair of my state.
You've always been into this.
I've come from a political family, yeah.
Do you?
Oh, yeah, my parents were political activists, yeah.
Yeah, because you were like... It
so you get baptized into it. I'm also from Iowa. There's nothing else to do in Iowa. There's pigs.
Just be a Republican activist.
Yep. Pigs, corn, and politics.
Pigs, corn, Republican activism.
Politics, that's right. Type 2 diabetes. Yeah. And so Barack Obama says rhetoric like that, and it's like, man, how can you disagree with that? You can't. That's beautiful, actually.
Yeah.
Whoever wrote that. But then the difference between that and President Trump, who also has some very wonderful rhetoric about the nature and fabric of this nation, is that Trump follows through on that. Barack Obama got to D.C. and immediately was metastasized by the parasite class. And those sucker fish, the fish and the inside of your tank with the big mouths.
You're obsessed with these fish. Every time you bring them up, you got a bit mad.
I'm
think
so
about
angry.
those fish. Benny, stop
They're
it.
parasites.
No, they're not really.
They are terrible. You ever been bit by a leech? They're awful.
They're bastards.
And they're parasites. And they took him over. And they took him over, and he became a tool, an instrument of establishment DC. And it cannot be stated enough. And I'm a very simple man. I think I have a room temperature IQ. And but even I can understand that there's a single-ended. Why is Washington so rich? Why is it right there on the map? There's no It's a swamp. It's a literal swamp.
Oh.
There's no nature. There's no geographic. Reason to have any industry there. There's no natural resources. It's a filthy, disgusting place. It's rat infested. Why is it so rich? Why? Because there's one industry, and that is forever war, and the printing press that creates the forever war. And Barack Obama was utterly captured by those people and their psychological warfare. And as soon as he was losing in 2012, they told him, you know what? That whole a red state, blue state, bullshit you were talking about? No. It's better to just say there's white America and there's black America. And Trayvon Martin would have been my son. And the only way you're going to win is actually to start pitting these people against each other. And instead of running on unifying the nation, you're going to run on tearing the nation apart. And right now we are living in the afterbirth of Barack Obama making that decision, which was centrally organized by the establishment powers in D.C., to tear our nation apart. And we're living in that right now.
Good. I mean, you're very passionate about this, as well as the sucker fish,
Madison.
And that kind of corruption.
Madison.
Madison will be.
He knows.
You'll be on
Madison
shortly, won't you,
knows.
mate? Hold up, I've got a few questions to ask you, Benny. These are them.
Madison knows DC parasites better than almost any man alive, I bet.
I'm very aware of some of the parasitical sucking activity that's been described by Madison. He has described some of the parasitical sucking. Hey, what's going on? Hello there, you awakening wonders. We're right in the middle of the show in a glorious day. We've landed. We've already done stuff today that's fantastic. We've got a brilliant week coming up. This show is going to be fantastic. First of all, is it Doag with a hard G, or is it Doge with a soft G? Department of Government Efficiency, Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy. Are you excited about that? I'll tell you what I am thrilled about myself is ingenuity and entrepreneurship. What are the detractors saying, though? I've heard some detractors saying Elon Musk not got no real power. What will people say? That Elon Musk is an oligarch who's too close to Trump. But what was it before, when the oligarchical power of Soros and Gates could move the needle during a pandemic? And you know where that needle ended up, baby? Right in your arm. But did it stay right in your arm? I'm saying, did some of those spike proteins migrate to the surface of the old heart? The evidence suggests that it did. Hey, we're going to have a brilliant day today and a brilliant show. And it's a brilliant week because tomorrow, Dr. Robert Malone is our guest on the show. On Friday, Rudy Giuliani is our guest on the show. I don't know what you might love Rudy Giuliani from. His fleeting appearance in a Sacha Baron Cohen film when he was America's mayor during 9/11. Let me know what you want me to talk to Rudy Giuliani about. I met him before at the RNC. He had good granddad energy. He seemed like a kind, decent man. So we've got a few good things over the course of the week. If you're not in the Rumble chat yet, get in there, like Jay Logan or Jude DeBrain or Argon Media. There's some interesting conversation flying about. And if you're not on Awake and Wonder, sorry yesterday about the locals chat, get in that Awake and Wonder chat, because in a minute, we're going to be doing Break Bread with Russell Brand. 3:20, that's Eastern time, 8:20 GMT. I don't know what time it is on the Pacific. Yeah, that dependent child. I see you. Jim Earthsey says I'm looking sharp. Thanks very much. Which you go in the Rumble chat. You're lucky we believe in free speech, or that will be totally banned. Some people are saying that Rudy should be AG. Amazing. We're going to have a message for you, Rudy. I brought that up in front of him, and he hadn't heard of that song. Have you heard of that song? It's a British ska band. I don't know. It's in keeping with my shirt in some ways. Hiya on the Pacific Coast, nerd far away in the Rumble chat. If you're watching us on YouTube, for about 15 minutes we'll be there, and we'll be talking to you about the media meltdown and breakdown. CNN are firing stars. Brian Stelter's going to be looking for a job. I see my mate Dave Rubin posted, maybe I could give him a job. He could sit in the corner of the room. I could throw nuts at him. That's sort of, like Dave Rubin. He's got sort of, don't you think he's got Rat Pack vibes? Anyway, I'd like to work with Brian Stelter. Even just a legitimate doing that impression of him that I can do. That's a little bit like Cam in Ferris Bueller's Day Off, and then I'll work on it. But I liked it when it was. Listen, why are people watching Joe Rogan? It's a question that's still being asked. We'll be talking about Van Jones's assessment of liberal media. We'll be calling Latino and black men racists now, and we'll be talking about the Sam Harris, Elon Musk, Joe Rogan spat, as well as something I'm super excited to talk about. Oh yeah, Pete Hegseth. Pete Hegley, your new, some of the appointees of Trump. Let me know how you feel in the comments and chat about some of these appointments. It's going to be a fantastic show, and we're going to have a lot of fantastic fun. Let's start off by talking about media and letting you know that if you're not an Awake and Wonder yet, become an Awake and Wonder, because I'm going to be with my teacher, J. John, a little later. When I say he's my teacher, he's the person that I do my Bible study with, and it's super helpful. So you'll be able to do a bit of Bible study with me. All right, so CNN are sacking people all over the gaff. Top stars are getting laid off all over. Comcast is putting MSNBC up for sale. CNN are announcing massive layoffs. How long in my country can the BBC keep demanding to be taxpayer funded when they're taxpayer attackers, when they hate the people that they're meant to be broadcasting to? I'm talking about the news division, where they are sneering and contemptuous about ordinary people, where they hold their noses as they report the news, where they amplify smears and attacks where they can't be trusted. Is this a revolution coming out of independent media? Are we going to see the legacy media quake and shake because of their attachments to groups like Logically AI and Crisp, shady organizations that are probably putting bots in the chat right now, that are censoring you right now? The mistake I will never make again, Lord, is this: thinking for a second, like I did when I was a dumb fool celebrity, that it was about me, that somehow I deserved it because there was something special about me, because I was all that and a bag of chips, when all it was is I temporarily had a bit of attention because I was useful to the system. Damn, I was able to play the role of the bad boy womanizer. Damn, they needed one for a minute. And fool that I was, insecure wreck and wretch that I was, greedy worshipper of false idols that I was willing to bow down before Satan. And Lord, now let me please stay true to you and realize that we have a great community here on Awake and Wonders on Locals. We have a great audience here on Rumble, even on YouTube, controlled by the TNI, controlled by the deep state, controlled by groups like the 77th Brigade, run by Mark Lancaster, married to Caroline Dinage, the very woman that asked that I be demonetized, and really, forget woman, member of parliament in the UK. It all makes sense now. I've seen the light. The deep state, the legacy media and global bureaucracies all aligned to support corporatism, and the only thing that can oppose them isn't loud mouths from the UK or even mighty UFC commentators preaching across blue-collar America. Neither is it any one of the emergent stars in independent media. Is, of course, the fact that communities of people form around these channels. Whether you're watching me or even the people that hate me, like I'm talking about Sam Cedar or Dave Pacman, the left-wing ones. Support independent media, because legacy media It has to be brought down. These corporations have to be destroyed. This is Buddy 1205. You were psyoped, Russell. Yeah, there's no doubt about that. It was a psyop, all right? But now we are fighting back. In fact, we're not fighting back. You are fighting back. When I knew you guys were smarter was some time ago. There was a Facebook whistleblower came forward that was like, Facebook is really negatively impacting young people. And the government was like, that's why we have to regulate and censor Facebook. And I was like, for a minute, I was like, yeah, this is good, this. They should regulate and censor Facebook. And then all of the community, all of the people, it was YouTube in the end days. That's when you could be open and honest on YouTube. All of the YouTube comments were like, you idiot. This whistleblower is a stooge. They're created a story to legitimize the regulation of Facebook. But now we're fast. We migrate quickly to new platforms. You know that you can trust Rumble to be free speech because Rumble's banned in Brazil, Rumble's banned in France, Rumble's banned in Russia, curiously enough. So free speech don't care about your ideology. Free speech specifically don't care about your ideology. It only believes in one ideology, the right for you to speak freely. If we have that right, we can continue to attack those that want to see us silenced and what I want to say, bound, gagged, that those that want to gag us out. Avoid lick, spittle, legacy media like the plague, says Randolph Lee in the chat. So does and Somsana Rubio. What? We'll be talking about Trump's appointments. Let me know. Are you happy about them in the Rumble chat? Let me know. Awaken Wonder. Do you think that's going well? Is he making the kind of appointments that you want to see? Or do you think that somehow the deep state is infiltrating? I know that's what Candace Owens thinks. We'll be talking about that a little later as well. We'll stay with you on YouTube for a minute, but then we're going to be on that sweet stream Rumble. Hey, JT, I know you're watching the chat and regulating it right now because that's what you're doing. JT, come in and make this a bit smaller on Rumble for me and check that Locals is updating because I can't see Locals updating. Hello, Lester Burner. Come in here now and do it for me, mate, on the laptop. Right, let's get into our first story. It's CNN's Brian Stelter explaining that the public not trusting CNN is not his fault.
But I want to recognize that for all the flaws of the mainstream media, and we have a lot of them, it's not just the media's fault that trust has been declining for decades. It's also decades of attacks by politicians.
That is the main issue, is that, it could be that the Washington Post is endorsing candidates, or it could be that there are millions of voters who believe lying politicians who tell them lies, knowing that they are. I mean, that could be the problem, too.
Hey, I just heard you lot are saying in the chat that Trump and Biden are meeting right now. Can we watch that on a stream anywhere? Where can we watch that being streamed, Isaac? Is that brilliant? Let's go for wherever it's being streamed. We're going to be bringing you that in a second. Thanks for telling us, Luke. Here's Van Jones admitting that the liberal media have no idea what they...
If you're the Democrats, what are you going to do for the next 2 years? How do you regroup?
Therapy. We're all going to therapy. I don't know why are we here? There's nothing. If you're a Democrat, all we can say is we hope that Susie decides that she's going to take a long vacation, that they hire some terrible people and make some mistakes to give us a chance. Right now, they have everything. They got the Supreme Court, they got the Electoral College, they got the House, they got the Senate, they got the popular vote, and we're just sitting here with the dunce cap on. Last week, we thought we were the smartest people in the world. We thought Donald Trump was an idiot. We thought his campaign made no sense, and it turned out they were smarter than us. And we don't have anything to say. I can sit here and pretend I know something. Here's what I know. Everybody I know is miserable. Everybody's on these Zoom calls. Nobody's got any good ideas, and it's going to take us a while to figure this out. I'm not good at coming here and faking it, pretending we got whooped.
Ideally,
Van, you're gonna go to the spa. You need a massage and a cucumber water.
I agree, and a cookie.
That's right.
All right.
Let's go over to, let's look at X. Bring up the X feed for us, Isaac. Let me find the meeting on there. Let me find that. Trump. Here I am. Biden. That meeting right now. Let's have a look. What's going on there? I see that they're meeting at, here it is. Here we go. Let's watch it here. Go full screen and let's have the audio for it.
Looking forward to having like we said, smooth transition. Do everything we can to make sure you're accommodated, what you need. And we're going to get a chance to talk about some of that today. So good. Welcome back.
And, thank you very much. And politics is tough, and it's in many cases not a very nice world, but it is a nice world today, and I appreciate it very much. A transition that's so smooth, it'll be as smooth as it can get, and I very much appreciate that, Jim.
You're welcome. Well, Mr. President-elect and former President, thank you.
That's pretty interesting. That's the way that's unfolded. Is that quite a sweet moment? Is that a sweet moment that suggests that the transition of power is happening peacefully? Do you notice that seems to be that's the passive passive-aggressive dig that they continually offer? Morgan, who else thinks that Biden voted for Trump? Who of you saw that speech he gave when he was suddenly super cogent? Did you see that? That was like a near miraculous moment. I really, really enjoyed that. Okay, well, so that's interesting. The cogs and wheels are turning still. X control, let's go X screen. Let's go me full screen. Thank you very much. All right, okay, let's have a look at Joy Reid continuing to blame people for voting in the wrong direction.
And it's this idea of I want to be with the side that's waving the biggest flag. I want to fit in. And there is a huge element, to be honest, of anti-blackness in a lot of this. Anti-black Americanness specifically. And Paola and I have talked about this, that there is a part of that anti-blackness is a piece of it. Even though Enrique Tarrio, who's the head of the Proud Boys, is a black Latino, but he's down with white supremacists. Down with them. And there's this idea that I'm black, but I'm not black. I may look black to you. I may be black if I'm walking through Bloomingdale's and get followed around. But in my mind, I'm identifying with whiteness because whiteness means privilege and it means not being a black American. This has to be unpacked because this shift among Latino men is significant. And it says something about where we're going in this country, about whether we can create an appeal. There's also, the last thing I will throw in is the creation of the idea that everything that Vice President Harris was proposing is communism. That is a potent argument for a lot of Latinos.
Oh, yeah, right, because they come from penury in communist countries where those systems haven't worked. That's interesting, though. It doesn't feel like... I'm going to try my best to see if I can actually say what I genuinely believe. The problem is that the Democrat Party got captured by corporatism in the same way that the Labour Party in my country got captured by corporatism, probably around the late 80s, early 90s. What I mean is they became deregulatory when it came to financial industries, and they forgot that the idea, by the way, of a party that represents working class people, that's the idea. That's the idea of the Labour Party in the UK. I don't know, you tell me in the comments and chat what the idea is behind the Democrat Party. I think it's meant to be that idea. They represent ordinary working people. That's a good idea. Whether or not centralising state power leads to a better society is obviously a question that your country in particular has completely rejected. And I can understand why that would be, because if you replace our belief in a higher power or a god with belief in the state, you're essentially saying the state has the kind of rights that you would attribute to a god, those kind of values and powers, i.e. the ability to say what's sayable and what's unsayable, the ability to decide who can be killed and who's not able to be killed. And that's a kind of power I don't want the state having. And it seems like the Democrat Party are unwilling to have the hard conversation that's required. They made themselves pointless. And until they make themselves valuable again, they're going to be in decline and sort of, I would say, moving into irrelevance. But the broader rhythms of matters like this appear to be that whatever real power runs things is able to migrate between parties. You know, like in the 90s, for example, it was Cheney and Bush that were the party of war, right? And they were in government, and there were a bunch of wars that were beneficial to the kind of elite powers and corporate powers that we're describing now then. And then now Cheney is supporting the Democrat Party, and, you know, like the Republicans have peculiarly become some sort of blue collar populist movement. It's extraordinary the way that it fluctuates, and I think the way to understand it is, like, if you have a look at my conversation tomorrow with Robert Malone, we talk about how bureaucracies have become tyrannical. He taught me these two phrases. One, inverted totalitarianism, where entrenched government bureaucrats are able to supersede the power of elected officials. That was one interesting thing I learned. And another one was fifth generation warfare. That's the kind of warfare where various bureaucracies and institutions come together to shut down all opposition using myriad means. But they're not going to be able to do that stuff forever. If you're watching this on YouTube, we're going to be there for a couple more minutes. Let's spend a few seconds looking at this new. Hey, Isaac, mate, can you turn on the two lights either side of the screen? Because I actually, as on top of everything else, I use them for reading, and I don't know what turns them on and off. Thank you, mate. The Sam Harris and put them on a list of things that we do before kickoff. Thanks, man. Now I know the guy that manages Sam Harris, and I'm friends with that guy's brother. So I'm always like, when we know, and Sam Harris has been on my show a bunch of times, and I've had good conversations with him, even though he's an atheist, and I don't agree with that. Even though he believes that sort of rationalism might be able to resolve all of our problems. Does he believe that? Because he's right interested in spirituality in the form of a kind of atheistic Buddhism. He's criticised Joe Rogan. Now I see Rubin the other day saying that, once it was Sam Harris who was the up-and-coming neurologist who was making waves by talking about politics when he has no academic pedigree in the subject. And now it seems that he's reverting to that type of conservatism that is defined by, hey, shut up, you're not allowed to do that, criticising Joe Rogan for his influence. Let's have a listen to that. Let's have a look at Musk's response. And let's see if we can diagnose from looking at this conversation what the movements are, even in the independent media space, and how it's sort of likely to evolve once Trump takes office in January. That's a good few things to discuss, isn't it?
The Joe Rogan podcast is not a substitute for the Wall Street Journal or the Kennedy School at Harvard. It is simply not progress to have a comedian like Dave Smith, who's apparently done his own research, interviewed about the history of the Middle East or the war in Ukraine.
Whoa. Amazing. Okay. And then now he's talking about so sort of Dave Smith actually might be an autodidact. He might have done his own research. And that's one of the things actually that really alarmed me during the pandemic, when people started to criticize folk for not being experts and started to undermine the idea of doing your own research. The presupposition being that you're too stupid to understand information for yourself. Right? That you need information to be digested and pre-chewed for you. That if you're not an academic, you shouldn't even be talking about stuff. That's called orthodoxy. That's like what the Pharisees and Sadducees said. You can't just start directly worshipping God and ignoring all our rules that we use to institute power and utilize control. Of course you should do your own research. You will make mistakes, but hey, we know in the post-pandemic era that some pretty serious experts made mistakes that were costly for us and beneficial for them. Like some of the experts that were working in government that now work in at Pfizer or Moderna, they made mistakes, didn't they? Like they were telling everyone you had to take this vaccine or you might die. Turns out that was a mistake. I can tell now that it might be time for me to get off YouTube. Start the countdown. You're going to want to stay with us because we're going to be talking about some of the appointments. Do you think it's too hawkish and pro-war? Let me know about that. We're going to be talking about Marco Rubio. We're, of course, going to be talking about the Doge or the Doge, the Department of Government Efficiency. Will it work? Can it work? Is this a new era? And we'll be talking about the ramifications across the globe of this historic election. We can't talk about that on YouTube because it's part of the censorship industrial complex. You're all right to chat about makeup. Don't try talking about revolution. Click the link in the description. Come on over to Rumble.